This interview is going to blow you away. I sat down with Nikita. She is a 23-year-old entrepreneur. Yes, 23. She's already built multiple businesses, including restaurant, luxury event spaces, and a company she recently sold after scaling it nationally in under 2 years. Honestly, I was blown away by her drive, her confidence, and her business mind. We talked about what it's really like being a young woman in business, learning to trust your instincts, handling criticism, creating unforgettable luxury experiences, and why sometimes the biggest success comes from just taking action instead of overthinking everything. She's smart, she's funny, she's grounded, and incredibly inspiring. I think you're going to love this interview. Enjoy. Nikita, you have accomplished more in your 23 years than many people do in a lifetime. Where did this drive come from?
Oh my God, you did not waste a beat. That was you just got right
Bam!
into Oh my God. Oh my God. I hope the next question isn't what my 5-year plan is, because where does my drive come from? I think I've been spending an awful amount of time trying to figure this out and come up with a better answer than I have no idea. I think what I've come to the conclusion is I I've gamified it for myself a little bit. I think for me, it's like business is this really fun activity almost that I am obsessed with, right? And like it's not success, it's like excellence that I am just addicted to continue
Mm,
to chase. And excellence is not necessarily enjoying being chased. It just like continues to move because there's a new level that you reach. And I
right.
think I think that's what it is. Like I think that it's just so gamified for me, if that's the right word to use, where I'm just like, I just want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I think I just really love it. Like I think the drive comes from wanting more.
Got it. Were you always entrepreneurial as a child, or did something awaken in you that turned you into this powerhouse?
I mean, I guess that comes down to what you define entrepreneurial as, right? So to me, it's the ability to get yourself out of tough situations. Like, I think the only difference, in my opinion, between me and somebody who works for someone else is the buck stops with me, and so I got to figure out how to get out of things or get into things, right? And I think that I've always been pretty good at like talking my way into situations and talking my way out of situations. I feel like that's such a bad way to describe it, but like I said, because no, I mean it comes back, like I said, to I just really, really enjoy it. And so for me, it's like how much more can I do and how can I not get stopped from doing more, if that makes sense?
Hmm. It
And so for
does.
me, that's I guess entrepreneurialism, right? And I think that's always been something I've done since I was a kid.
How has analytical thinking shaped the way you make business decisions?
I mean, I think it's all to an extent analytical thinking, right? It's all I'm in this situation, these are my options, this is what I want my end goal to be. Like it's all problem solving. So it's I think I think it's part of every decision I make.
Most people your age are still figuring out what they want to do, but you have been buying businesses. What gave you this level of confidence at such a young age?
I mean, I think that we're assuming two things here, right? Like you're assuming that I know what I want. I don't think I know what I want. I think I'm putting my one foot in front of the other and I'm just like, I like this, so I'm gonna head in that direction. But I don't think like if you asked me what do you want in 10 years, I don't think I could tell you. I mean, I could tell you like a joke answer that I used to say as a kid, like, "Hey, I want the Earth to be renamed Iria." They sound so similar, like things like that. But I don't think I know exactly what I want, and I think that honestly, the only difference is I'm a big believer in like not sitting and trying to figure things out and just doing. Like I like doing things. And my parents always talk about this because they're like, one of the things that's the most annoying about me, but also the thing that they think makes me most successful, is I don't have a bone in myself to procrastinate. So if like, and it could
Mm,
be anything, right? So like if my mom and I are talking and I'm like, Mom, I want to throw a birthday party for my boyfriend, right? And she'll be like, Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I will then be like, okay, and I will send a note to ChatGPT to write out a message for me to send to everybody, and the message will go out then and there. So it's just like I don't think things through as much as a normal person would, I think. And so I just act on it, and then that kind of ends up saving me a lot of time in the long run. It definitely isn't always the best way to do things, but it's
Right.
just become my way.
Has it ever bit you in the ass? Like, oh shit,
Every
I
day.
didn't really think about this longer than, because I'm very much like that. Like, I will be like, my husband used to tell me, you just start spewing out texts about what you want done. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really think. I'm kind of spontaneous that way. So it seems like you are as well. Like, you just, has
It's
it ever like come back and you're
yes,
like,
so
why
many
did I
times.
do this?
Like every which way. And then sometimes, and I think that I'm getting more comfortable in who I am now over maybe like the last 6, 8 months. And so a little less now, but like sometimes I would look at like somebody else opening a situation, like opening a restaurant, right? When one of my friends was opening, and I was like, oh, they didn't run into this problem I ran into. Oh, they didn't have this situation happen that I had. And a lot of it is because they would sit down and they would do the reading and they would study every item and they would look through everything. And I'm more of like a I'm going to try and do what I want to do. And if I get told that I'm doing something wrong, people will allow me the space to correct it. And I'm not trying to maliciously do anything wrong, but if I spend every waking minute worrying, overthinking, and rereading and trying to find every single thing, then I'm going to end up in a situation where I'm not going to do anything because
Because you're constantly
exactly like I don't want to
checking
say
yourself.
exact like
You need to have
ignorance
the
is bliss.
freedom to create. I get that because you're a creator. So you kind of need emotional space to create. Let's go back a bit. Why don't you give me a quick elevator overview of how this whole amazing career of yours started?
Oh my gosh. Elevator pitch. Okay. So when I was younger, I built a couple of nonprofits.
Younger meaning how old? Because
I was
I know how old. So just let
like,
let other people know.
I was like, I can't remember if I was 12 or 13. It was like somewhere thereabouts. We built two nonprofit clinics and we were diagnosing women and also spending a lot of time talking about their economic independence. How do you get to a point? Because I'm a big believer in like you don't know what you want until you have the freedom to be able to decide what you want, right? And so
Right.
that was something that I really held near and dear to myself, and it's one of the, groups that give most of my time and energy to. And so essentially we did that, and one of the groups that I worked with there that helped provide fertilizer and things like that ended up wanting to open a restaurant in Sausalito. Well, they had wanted to open one in California. I, at the time, lived in California and was like, oh my gosh, I'll do it. Choose me, pick me, let me, right? Obviously 17 at the time, got rejected, took a while. Eventually they were like, okay, we'll do it. We'll let you build it. And that's how we started.
And you were 17 years old and you opened a restaurant, which you have to get a liquor license for. You can't clearly can't drink, but yet you own this business. So who were these people that backed you? Like, how could they trust a 17-year-old with so much?
I think honestly, and I grapple with it, like I think about this a lot more now than I did in the past, just because I have a lot of friends now trying to raise money, and I personally was thinking about raising around for one of the other projects we're working on, and just watching how difficult it is when you're pitching someone to do something is just crazy. And I think honestly, the way that they thought of it, and I had this conversation recently and I was like, why? Right? And I think it was twofold. So I think for them, they had their CEO that they figured would do a lot of coaching, mentoring, and kind of be able to control it a little bit more. And I think
Right.
they liked the story element of young female and all of that kind of stuff. I don't think they anticipated how much I would be like, okay, now this is my show, right? Like, let me have an opinion on everything. And then I think the second part of it was I think they were just looking for someone who was willing to work really, really hard. And I think that's one of the biggest things that they noticed in me. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people notice in me, right, I probably can outwork a lot of people. I wouldn't say that I'm smarter than anyone. I wouldn't say I'm quicker than anyone. Like I wouldn't say any of those things, but I definitely can say that hard work doesn't scare me, and I really, really like just sitting down and focusing and stimulating my brain. And so I think that they saw that when I was building the clinics, and I think that they just wanted to see where that would go. I think it was curiosity.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about your concept? Because it's very different than most restaurants and events places. So tell me a little bit what differentiates what you're doing compared to everybody else.
Yeah, so we actually started off as, like I said, a restaurant, and we got to plan a couple of events here and there. And then I was actually, I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about, but I was asked
Do
by
talk about whatever you want.
I
It's
was
your show.
by
Talk.
a very prominent, well-known like CEO here to plan one of their events, and they went all out. Like they painted the walls. They really went very, very out there. And sitting there, they were always shocked when I said yes, just because like I said, I wasn't thinking things through. So they were like, "Can we paint the space?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, as long as you paint it back, I don't see a problem, right?" And
Right.
they're,
Right.
okay, can
That's
we put all
reasonable.
yeah, can we put all of your furniture in like a U-Haul and put our own furniture in? I was like, yeah, as long as you leave it the way you found it. I mean, while you're renting it, it's your space. Do whatever you want, right? And I think that I noticed that that attitude continuously surprised them. And they work with the biggest, best of all kinds. And they were like, I don't get it, right? Like, how are you saying yes to all of this? Like, where are your boundaries? And I was
You're
like,
like, I don't have any.
no, oh my God, I don't want to say that.
Well, no, but your boundary is very clear. Put it back exactly how you found it, and in between, then do whatever you want. I
Exactly,
get
right.
it.
No, and that was kind of what I said to them, and it seemed to be a very novel concept, right? We didn't move to event space immediately then, but we started to plan more, and my attitude never changed, where I was like, no, I mean, feel free to do whatever you want. And then when I was able to take ownership entirely, right? So when my investors were no longer in the project, I said, I want to just do like event spaces. I don't have a passion for food. I personally just love the enjoyment of coming up with the next big thing, right? I love when a client comes to me and is like, hey, this is my budget. I want to wow everyone. I mean, what we've done, we've blindfolded them, we've done ice sculptures, we've done walk on coal, we've done walk on fire. I've done these like yacht parties where I've flown in the best musicians from all over the world. Like when that's something that you're able to do, it's really hard to come back down and be like, I'm gonna do day to day some like day to day restaurant service, right? But
Mhm.
anyway, so when I almost noticed that there was definitely a demand for that, and I said, well, I want to build a space that I'm basically allowing anyone and everyone to do exactly what they want in it, right? So if you rent our space, our answer to everything you ask is yes, how do you want it done? So you can rent just the space and build everything else out. Or you can say, Nikita, I want you to plan everything, and I will have someone on my team measure you. We'll draw your dress out. We'll get it shipped from India. But I have enough team that we can really be anything and everything you want us to be and not be anything you don't want us to be.
So, what do they typically come to you and ask of you? Do they come in with their team and really take charge, or is it half and half that they say, you just wave your magic wand and let's see what happens? How much input do you have,
I
or is
think
it
it really
different with each
depends.
one?
Yeah, I think it really depends on where they come from. So if it's like somebody who's seen something I've done in the past or has come through word of mouth, a lot of the times the clients, so when we first started, they would just rent the space and then bring in like a well-known event planner, right? And through the process, they would work with me and work with my team and they'd be like, "Oh, we wish that we had gotten more from you because I like the way your brain works or like I like your style." Right? And like we didn't realize that you could be so involved and all that, right? And so then the next time they recommend somebody to come, they'll be like, ask Nikita to plan it for you, right? And so sometimes when people come, they're like, hey, I've heard that I should just give you the cash and ask no questions and just show up. And other times I have people that are super interested in being involved in every detail. And there are times that they won't, like, I take all leads directly to me initially, but then sometimes they'll just work with my planner and, I'll just kind of oversee. So I think it really depends on what the client wants. And I think that's what we're known for. We are really, really good at giving people what they want.
What kind of options do you give? So, like, let's say I call you and I said, I'm going to plan my wedding and I want it to be whatever. What kind of services do you guys offer? Like for your space, like there's flowers, there's music, what? Like what
There's
exactly?
everything, right? Like I said, I can design your dress. I can draw out your shoes and get it tailor made in India. I can hire a hairstylist and a makeup person for you. I can do all the flowers. I can do all the planning. I have a concierge team on my team. A lot of our clients like to stay with us a while. So like we did their wedding, then they want us to do their their kids' birthdays, and then they're
The
like,
bat mitzvahs,
the bar
they're
mitzvahs, then they're like, can you do the itineraries for all of our international travel. So I do have like a lot of like concierge style people and travel managers on my team. So we could do that for you. We've actually had someone on our team do the interior design for someone's home because they're like, Nikita, can you just have your team do it? Because it's just easier to outsource it to you because you speak our language.
wow. So what's the most out there event you've done that you were even like, wow, I can't even believe we did this?
There was a bar mitzvah we did, and it was such a bummer because they did not want it to be public knowledge, right? Like they
Hmm.
didn't want a photograph, so I don't have these. But the kid was given like an unlimited budget. She flew in a very, very, very famous musician for $500,000, and she set up a floating movie screen on the bay for all of her friends to watch a projection. She got 153 different types of candy in a dispenser. um, I mean, it was just crazy. We flew in the rabbi for the ceremony. It was insane. And like I had so many people working that we carried her up the stairs in a chair for her grand entrance. It was definitely out of a movie, and it was so much fun to work with her as well because I think that there is a level of creativity you can put into a corporate event, and I've been touch wood very fortunate that some of the corporate partners I've worked with, like they let me do a walk on fire, they've let me do like mixology classes, they've gotten behind and done DJ, but like to have like an to have like a kid who doesn't have any limitations in her mind of what isn't possible and what is possible, and she just threw out something and I was like, okay, we'll do it, right? And so it was just so nice because I always tell people, I'm like, the world is our oyster, like dream as big as you can, and I will do my best to make it work in your budget. Like, what do you want and how do I get it done within the budget is my favorite analytical problem solving thing to do. So please let me enjoy myself and tell me, right? And people always have some restraint, right? And it takes a while for them to like get into the groove of like, I want an ice sculpture, or I want a yacht, But like when she came in, from the minute she came in, she was like, I want everything. I want it to
Love
be
that. I want
no,
everything.
I want everything. I want Hollywood. I want this singer. And I was like, it's so fun. You know what I mean? To be like, she was not restricted by anything. And she
Well,
was
that did, and that gave you freedom to not feel restricted as well.
exactly. And it's like, it's the best thing ever to plan because the reason I do this is because I love it. Right? There's 100 other things I could be doing. I'm from a comp science math major, right? This is really not what I was built to do necessarily or what I've been like educated to do. But the reason I love it is because of the problem solving where it's like you need to make everything this person wants happen and you only have this much to make it happen. So are you making a creative deal with a vendor to say, "Hey, I'll get you these photos in return for you doing this in addition to like giving us a slight discount?" Or is it, hey, I'll book you for two events and you'll kind of help this client out, right? Or what does it, this client is a doctor and you've been wanting to see a specialist? Like, how can I help broker these deals in the most creative way to get my client exactly what they want, more so than they would be otherwise able to?
I think that's what differentiates you because I don't think I've heard any other event planner. I've worked, my daughters have both had bar mitzvahs and this, I mean, and they were amazing, but like there was never like, hey, she's going to trade you some makeup lessons and we're going to get a deal. So don't you think though that your background with the math and the comp and all that, like, don't you think that has helped you? It must have helped you,
100%.
right?
But I'm biased because I am obsessed. Like I told you, I am like a child in a candy store when it comes to learning. And so to me, if I went to like clown school, I would be like, that helped me so much because now I know how to make people laugh and that's
Right,
why
right,
I'm
right.
better. So the same way that people are really good at like justifying things to themselves, I feel like learning is never something that I'm gonna have a hard time justifying. So like to me, I would not be where I am if I didn't study math. But like I think that about anything that I ever learned. Like I don't know, I am the biggest nerd in the world that I've ever met. I the way that people were obsessed with like board games and things, I'm obsessed with business, and I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
No, I think that's super crystal clear. You've said that hospitality business doesn't have to operate at a loss. Why do you think so many people accept that model?
I think a lot of people that get into the hospitality space and restaurants more specifically, they have a lot of pride in what they do. They have worked really, really, really hard to hone in on a skill, right? Being hospitable is not easy. Having to have like a happy face on while someone's being rude to you, or to remember to do every single thing right, because if you do, like if you have a chair at a wrong angle, someone's going to complain. It's really, really hard to get through to that stage. And I don't want to compare it to a doctor because I know it's different, but like you're studying the craft in so much detail that you take a lot of pride in what you do, right? And I
Of
think that
course.
in a lot of ways, pride is the enemy of business, right? I think being proud of what you deliver is very important, but being married to continuing that pride is hard, right? I think that when I first started, I wasn't getting the $500,000 weddings, right? I wasn't getting the $300,000 weddings. I was having to do things that I was not necessarily always like, this is what I'm so proud of. And, there were times that I took a DJ party that isn't necessarily something that I'm like, this is what I'm gonna, live and die by. But there's a lot of stuff that you have to do in order to continue to pay your dues. And I think sometimes, and I don't want to say that they don't do that, but I think sometimes people will be very married to the concept that makes them proud, and it might just not be the right time, the right concept, the right clientele that they're reaching to be able to accept that, right? And so I've always been a big believer in like if you're doing business, you're doing it for other people to buy your services or to enjoy your services or to appreciate your services, right? And so the business can't just be what makes you proud. It has to be something that people want, right? There has to be demand.
Very true.
And I'm trying to think of the most diplomatic way to say that. And I don't know if, it comes across a little bit insensitive because there's been people that have done it much better than I have and for much longer than I have. And yeah, I think it just comes down to being willing to pivot into where the demand is as opposed to staying where you feel most proud and finding pride within the demand, right? So like I don't want to say that I'm not proud of everything I do, right? Like everything I do, I try and do to the best ability that I have, but it might not be my definition of this is what's going to make me proud before I do it.
What made you realize that experiences are the true luxury product today?
Just watching people's faces, like the addictiveness and the repeat client that you see, right? So if I did someone's wedding, they're coming to me and they're like, you know what, we have to do a birthday. And that like light up and that, oh my gosh, I had never felt what this feels like to have this like really fun event. And now I want to do the next one. And at the end of like weddings, I have people be like, oh my gosh, so we have to talk about the baby shower or we have to talk about the birthday. And I'm like, you're not even pregnant. You're not even there. But it's like people really, really enjoy it. And I think that sometimes the world can be really gray and hard. And I think people just want something good and happy to kind of latch on.
And joyful, right?
Exactly. And experience in the nicest way is like it's one of the only things that is truly and utterly happy, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure that there's some people that have bad days on their birthdays, but usually if you're having a party, you are satisfying all of your wants. And in that moment, everything is perfect, right? And so I think it's a really, really good feeling. And it's very hard to get that in day-to-day life because you don't really have full control. But during a party, if you have a good planner, you have 100% control over everything going on.
You mentioned something yesterday when we were chatting about a lot of people are not using, video and photography and different things that they have used previously. So do you want to go into that a little bit? Because I found that really an interesting concept.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is a very talked about thing recently. Weddings are getting incredibly expensive. Like people are getting bigger and bigger with it, and everything is
Hmm.
getting expensive. And so it's getting to the point that a lot of young professionals can't afford to or don't want to kind of allocate their money to it. And so one of the biggest things that you're seeing in wedding trends is either people getting their like civil ceremony done and then waiting to get their actual like wedding reception and stuff done. So they'll like
Hmm.
get married, wait 3, 4 years where they can afford everything that they want to, and then they'll do the wedding then. Or it's a lot of like generational wealth coming in and, they're not necessarily footing their own bill. And I think with that, a lot of the generational wealth, they don't necessarily want as much documentation or publication. And I think with the people that are getting older, they're not as interested in taking the photos. And sometimes they'll say things like, it feels a little silly, my kids are here and to be, like playing dress up and taking photos. So I definitely have noticed not necessarily a decrease in photos, but a decrease in interest for publication. I think there
Hmm.
used to be a lot more interest in the past where people are like, I want to get married and I want to be on Vogue, right? Or like, I want to be in Brides. And I think that's still an aspiration for a lot of people. But I think a very large bucket of the people that we interact with in the luxury event planning space is a lot of older people that have saved up to be able to do the wedding and now are just doing a party for their friends and family. And then the other side is more of that private client that doesn't necessarily want everybody to know what they're doing.
What does the rebrand to area symbolize for you personally?
So, Iria was a name that I came up with, or I don't know if you call it a name or a word that I came up with when I was a kid. It's the last four of my last name, and my last name's always been an incredibly difficult thing to write, spell. I mean, it's like it almost has the entire alphabet in it. Like it's a hard one. And so it was always like my little signature from when I was a kid. I was like, I'm not gonna write Khandheria everywhere. I'm gonna write Iria, and everyone knows that, that's me. And so it just felt like such a natural shift to kind of put my name on that building and be like, you know what? Everything that comes out of this has my signature on it. I will be involved in everything. And that's why every lead that comes in, they'll always talk to me first. I mean, they might work with a different planner, they might just work with a director of operations, but like everybody that comes through our doors, I like to do my best to be able to say, hey, you have met what our concept is through me.
Have people underestimated you because of your age or because you're a woman or both?
I don't think underestimated as much as like disliked me. Like right now, specifically, it's actually so funny the timing of this. But there was this one person, I'm not going to name names, but she works at a restaurant near one of our properties. And I went in, I introduced myself, and I was like, hey, like, I'm so excited to get to know you. And she was so stoked. So she actually ended up coming to one of our events that we did.
Hmm.
After the event, she sent me, and I mean, I'm just gonna read it to you because I think it's stronger that way. But wow. So she goes, this is so embarrassing. I wish you had told me how old you were. I cannot believe I brought colleagues to this location knowing that you were a child. I cannot believe you're only 23. This is so embarrassing. How would you let me do this? You are a Nepo baby. You're a spoiled brat. I cannot believe that I'm spending my time and effort coming to support you. And it went on for a little bit
What? Wait, whoa.
longer.
Are you kidding?
No, but I think a lot of people don't like the idea.
That is incredibly aggressive and it's just outrageous. I mean, wow. That is someone that is very glum and bitter.
I mean, I think everyone has a reason to act the way they do. I'm not
What
saying
was
that it
your
was,
response to that?
I said, I'm so sorry. I don't want anyone to ever leave feeling that they received something from us that they weren't satisfied with or felt like they got their ROI. And I covered her Uber to the space and her tickets.
Wow. That's, we're going to
But
talk about that off the air. That is infuriating. I mean, how rude and disrespectful. I mean, she wouldn't say that if you were 45.
no, she
I
wouldn't.
mean, what does it matter how old you are? Honestly, what does it matter?
I don't know. But I think that everyone is a reflection of situations in their lives. And if I can have it be a positive experience instead of a negative by taking a little bit of a hit. It's okay, right? Like at the end
Right.
of
You
the day,
handled that with such grace and dignity. I mean, I'm so proud of you. That's remarkable because honestly, that is an incredibly insulting text to send to someone. It doesn't matter. Like, especially, did she have a nice time? She had nothing positive to say.
oh, she said the food and everything was great through the rest of the messages. The only thing she did not like was that I was there. And it's like like I said, right? Like
That's so interesting. Like, and why is that so offensive?
I think it's because in her mind, there's no way that I could have done this on my own, and she doesn't think that it's a fair world if I'm given opportunities that she wasn't, right? So I don't think she necessarily knew that I got investment, or I used to cry to sleep for like 3 months when I couldn't pay rent, and like all of that kind of stuff, right? When we first started, I don't think
Right.
she necessarily saw that, or like, you know, when I stopped taking a salary from the company when we first started, and like I think that a
All
lot.
the normal things that any entrepreneur goes through. Every entrepreneur has gone through everything that you just mentioned. Not paying themselves, not even enough money to pay bills, like scrambling,
I
it's
know, but there's not as much noise at that time, so people don't see a lot of that, right? And it's not, I'm a very like if you see me in life, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person. I'm like a child that's had too much sugar. And so so at like no point I think that like even people around me would have noticed that. Like I don't think I talk to my mom like every day, and I don't even think that she'll probably hear it here now, but like I don't think she knew that I was stressed about it because it's nobody else's business other than mine to have to figure out. But
You know what? Another thing, though, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is something that you and I have in common, and that I've had people say to me that I make things look effortless, as do you, and you don't complain when things are difficult. So people have no idea that you're even going through a bumpy way, that things are difficult. And I think that's a blessing and a curse. I think it's, admirable that you don't sit and complain and cry and all these things. But the fact that, I mean, I don't know, I almost feel like in that case with that woman, that you should say, you know, I don't understand why you had that reaction of me. I have gone through everything that you've gone through in a career. I've just done it at a younger age, but it doesn't mean I've had it easy. It hasn't been easy. I haven't been able to do things. I think that would make it a little more human. And in her mind, you're so happy go lucky. And it was like, she couldn't believe that someone that was that pleasant and happy could actually have accomplished what you and executed what you had done. Do you think that's possible?
I think so. I think that, like I said, I'm still trying to find the balance. I think the part of this that I really like is work. Like, I really like sitting down and finding the next level of something and the next level of something. And I think that the minute that I let myself start to open up the floodgates of being like, I need to justify everything to everybody at all times, I'm going to end up in a situation where I'm going to stop loving what I'm doing as much because a lot of what I'll do is going to, because I have at least 20 to 25 new people reach out to me every day. And I think if at every point I was like, no, feel bad for me, tell me, or like, hey, this is
No,
my
I agree with what
story.
you're saying, but I think once in a while, when someone goes so overboard as that woman had, I would feel like I just need to address this a little bit because, and I agree with you, it's not something that you're going to do in every instance. And because I don't think that most people are not so ill mannered or impolite that they would say such a thing out loud. But I think sometimes certain things need to be said. What have you learned about negotiating in rooms where people assume you don't belong?
um, I don't know. I don't think it's any different than negotiating in a room that you do belong, right? Like I think negotiation is always about figuring out how what their leverage points are and what your leverage points are, right? And them feeling like I belong or don't belong doesn't change my ability to detect their leverage. And once you find their leverage, everyone's willing to play ball, right? If you're willing to say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you the thing that you want, it doesn't really matter if they necessarily respect me or want me there, because I mean, we're going to have a due diligence period post negotiation. And at that period, they can find out whether or not they can trust me, regardless of whether or not they respect me.
What is the biggest misconception people have about successful women in business?
That somebody else bought it for us, that somebody bought it as a hobby.
Seriously. Yeah,
Um,
as like a, a
yeah, let's just
Christmas
keep her
stocking.
busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like let's just let her dabble in this for a minute. Do you think women approach leadership differently than men?
I think it depends on the woman, right? I think that everyone's a product of their experiences. I think that even in myself, have very different ways that I approach leadership. Like a year ago versus today versus when I'm in a stressful phase of work. Whereas, like I think that we are products of what's going on around us and what's going on inside us. And I think that it wouldn't be fair to categorize it as like women different in leadership versus men different in leadership. And I know that's a little bit of a hot take.
No, I think it's more of like your age, like what you mentioned, like how it's experiences and age and what you experienced a year ago and all the different experience that you've had or how you're dealing with something now. That's probably more impactful than being a woman or being a man. Because I hate that whole
Yeah, because I was going
thing
to say,
all the
I know that
time.
I probably should say something along the lines of like women lead this way versus men lead that way, but I don't necessarily believe that there is a generic statement that can be put. I think that, everybody is doing their best, I hope, to achieve what they personally want to see in their life tomorrow. And for everyone, that's a different style of leadership.
What's the first thing you look at when you're evaluating a business opportunity? Because we haven't even talked about the breadstick
Mm-mm.
company.
Um, I think that I like distressed businesses. I like something that feels like it needs a little bit of love, and that sounds so corny, but like
No, I
I
think that's really good.
said, like I said, I like business. I like a challenge, and so I like going in somewhere that isn't working, right? Like the breadstick company, they were losing money when I bought them, and I was like, I want to recover this business. Like I feel like every business deserves a chance to live, and I love finding out what it takes to make it live.
And what did you see in that business that wasn't happening? And what did you do differently?
Oh God. I could go on for a while, but I think that it was a great product. It didn't have as much visibility and like creativity behind the go-to market, I think. And I think there's a lot of untapped spaces. So we were able to take it national. We were able to expand our, SKUs. And I think a lot of it came from like the brand credibility that I
Hmm.
don't think was being harnessed enough, right? So when people heard, oh, Judy's Breadsticks is doing something else, well, Judy's Breadsticks for the last 30 years has been so good at what they've done. Whatever they're coming out with next, we want it, right? And so it was really easy to go from like, I think we got it when they had like 9 SKUs and we took it to like 100 some odd SKUs. And we took it national and I did. We saved a lot in terms of cost. We cut cost by 33% when we first came in.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I really like getting in there and being like, let me look at this P&L, and that's the math part of me, and I'm like, let me just see where can this company come back alive and what needs to happen to make it something that is valuable again and somebody else will want.
How long did you own that company and you eventually sold it, correct?
Yeah, we owned it for 13 months and I sold it in December of last year.
Wow. And how did that feel? Like, did you think you were going to sell it or did just an opportunity arise that someone came in and decided to buy you?
I think as I saw us expanding, I knew we were going to sell it because it became a lot less about the business and became much more about like figuring out operations to meet all of this demand. So it was a much more manufacturing heavy company as opposed
Hmm.
to business development heavy in its need. And there wasn't a lot of there was a lot of growth, but there was a lot of different kind of growth left, right? So like I think we did a lot of the low-hanging fruit growth and then, the fruit right above that tier as well. But I think then what it needed was someone who wanted to hold on to it for, the rest of their lives and really give it the love and continue to take it to, $50 million, $80 million. And that was just not something that I foresaw in my future. I like a problem, right? And it had gotten to the point that there was no problem per se, and it was just
Mm.
repetition that was needed.
And so, were there a lot of different people that came to buy the company, or how did
Yeah,
you, like, was it a big
I
company
hired a
that bought your
broker.
company? Oh, you
Yeah,
hired
yeah.
a broker. Okay.
Hmm. And then we interviewed a lot of different people, and one of my biggest things was I wanted it to go to someone who I believed would be able to continue the legacy and continue to
Mhm.
grow it. Because Linda Najarian, who's founded the company 35, 40 years ago now, she did such a good job keeping that branding in place. And she really gave me something that was amazing. And as much as it was for, my own pride and enjoyment to be like, look, I was part of that company for a year, it was just nice to see her legacy continue to exist.
Wow. What has failure taught you that success never could?
That I hate it, that it sucks. I think the best thing that failure taught me is that it's temporary, right? I think when you're succeeding, it doesn't necessarily like failure becomes scarier and scarier, right? Because then you're like, oh my gosh, there are going to be even more eyeballs on me if I fail. And, with every round of success, it's like, oh, now people expect this from me and I'm going to let them down. And I think the only thing that you learn when you have a situation where you're like, oh, this did not go the way I wanted to, is you watch yourself crawl out of it and you're like, okay, failing is not the worst thing in the world. Like it feels awful, but it passes, right? Like the news changes tomorrow and the cycle is only so long and you're going to be okay. And you just need to figure out what's next in order to take the next step to be okay.
What sacrifices have you had to make to build the life that you have now?
Um, so I think the traditional answer would be like having like a normal high school experience, college experience. But I don't see it as a sacrifice because I go to bed, I wake up the next morning and I'm like, I cannot wait. Like when a child is getting ready for preschool for the first time and they're like they got like these jitters and they're thinking through their outfit. Like I go to bed every night and it's been like 3 years and I'm always like, oh my gosh, tomorrow morning I get to do this, and oh my God, my social media team's gonna get back to me, or like the newsletter. Oh my gosh, we have these 3 contracts we're working on tomorrow, and like I always say that like I'm very like a lot of my team is in India, and when I wake up in the morning, it's like Christmas morning because I wake up and like everything that I sent them through the day has come back to me now, and so I'll wake up with like 100 emails and I get to go through it and see like I don't. This is such a dork. I sound like such a dork,
No,
but
you don't. You
no.
know, you sound like someone that loves their business. And, I've told my children this because you literally could be one of my children. Um, Figure out what you love doing so much you do it for free and then figure out how to get paid. And you have clearly done this to like levels that I can't even define. It's remarkable. How do you protect your mental health while operating at such a high level? Because every day isn't Christmas and its presents. There's days I'm sure you wake up and you're like, okay, this is the worst day ever. What am I going to do? How do you deal with that?
I mean, this is gonna be a horribly dorky answer, so bear with me. I my my safe place is I just need to go sit in a coffee shop and stare at an Excel sheet for a couple of hours. I'll download a free workbook online
Oh
for
my
business.
God, you
No,
are
I don't
such a nerd.
know. I know, but
I
like
love this.
it's really bad. To the extent that like the other day my mom and I got into an argument and I was like, I'll be like, and I think no, she was visiting me. And so I go away for like 2 hours and like am not responding to anyone on my phone. And my mom's just like, not worried. And one of her friends came by and she like kind of heard some of this stuff and she's like, are you not worried about your kid? My mom was like, no, I know exactly where she is. She's sitting in the library staring at an Excel sheet so she could make herself like calm down. Like, I don't like, I think that it's just like the precision and the satisfaction of completion and like it just the way that people drink and get high and they feel like it just takes them out of their mind for a little bit and the world is just quiet. Like that's what it does for me.
You are
I don't know what
amazing.
to say. No, it's not amazing. It's really, really sad. It's very
No,
dorky.
it's not. No, because you've actually figured out how to self soothe, which most people that are twice your age have no concept how to self soothe. And if that's how so I'm a weirdo too. I like to go and organize a closet and a drawer. That calms
Okay.
me down because it's like just what you said. I start it, it's a mess. Not that it is, but it is. But it's like I clean it and then I'm like, okay, I'm settled. We all have to figure out how to self-soothe. I do it with a closet, you do it with a spreadsheet. I mean,
I
same
know, but
thing.
it's not a traditional thing. It's definitely something that like
There's no rules, my
I
love.
know, but
There's not.
I
Yeah.
think my parents might have dropped me a couple times when I was a kid. Like that's what we've reached the conclusion that must have happened. Because no, and like I like people around me think that it's crazy, but like I I am obsessed. Like I thought it was gonna be like a phase, but it's
Uh-huh.
been 4 years. The phase is not going anywhere, and like I'm genuinely like a little kid with my toes twinkling. And when I sleep next to my boyfriend, he looks at me and he's like, "You're thinking about tomorrow's contracts and you're excited." And I'm like, "Yes." I'm so stoked.
Is he as driven as you are?
He's very driven too. I think that he still thinks that I'm like an excessive amount of obsessed. Like, I think that he genuinely thinks that, like, in my life, I have one true love and it's work and it's business and everything else comes second. And he's not that bad, but yeah.
Well, there's balance. Can you imagine if he was as driven as you? That would be, you guys wouldn't have a relationship. There'd be no time, right?
That's true. That's true. And yeah, I mean, I think balance is true, and I think there's ways to get balance even if you're doing a lot of one thing. Like, I would not say my life is not balanced. I would, because I have a lot of fun during the day. Like,
Right, right. You're enjoying it. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like I feel the same way about my work. Like I love it. And if I have to, if I get to work on a Saturday or Sunday with a client, great. Like I don't care. I think it's so important to love what you do. It is so incredibly important. So what's the next empire you want to build? Do you have something set? Do you plan on selling this business at some point or
no, I think I'm very settled. I mean, I think the reason why I found my happy place in events is because it's not something you have to enter and exit, right? Like, I think that I can find so much happiness in the constant growth here, and there's so much business development. Like, at our new location in the marina, right? We're thinking about, oh, what if we get this bakery to do a tie-in from like 7 a.m. to 2 p.m.? And how does that lead into lead generation? Or like, let's start like a community group where we're giving back to this. Like, there is always something or the other that I can always continue to do business development around.
right?
So I don't think I'm ever leaving the event space. Like I think the event industry is stuck with me for the next, hopefully, I'm going to be working till I'm 100, 110 at least. So for a little
I'm sure you are.
but what to expect next? I mean, we have the Marina location coming out in June, and then we have three other locations in SF that we are either at signed LOIs on or signed leases on that'll come out in the next 24 months. And then, yeah, so essentially expect a lot. Expect, unfortunately, to have a lot of Nikita in your face and a lot of for me
I think
communicating
it's
about it.
fantastic. I really do. Okay, we're going to do some rapid fire. Are you ready?
If I say no, will it not start? Okay,
No,
I'm
because we're doing it anyway.
ready. Okay.
Coffee or tea?
T.
What do you do when your day isn't flowing?
Excel.
Oh, that's right. Duh. Where is your happy place? I know, the library.
Ex- No, like a cozy coffee shop where I could just like have a list and be like boom, boom, boom.
Have you taken a vacation?
I would argue that a lot of life is a vacation. I think vacation is a bad term. Like I think vacation signifies like me.
Do you go to a beach and go swim or snorkel or
Yeah. I also try everything before I give it to a client. So I get to try all, like I went to play polo the other day. Like I get to do like a lot of like odd things. Like I went
Oh, that's
e-foiling.
fun.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun.
Okay, I love that. All right, do you have any favorite diet things that you're doing or exercise? What do you do for that?
I lift and I play pickleball. I don't I'm too young to have a diet. Like I feel like at this age you can eat
No,
whatever.
no, 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 not a diet like to lose weight, just like a way of eating that
I
you.
usually eat carnivore.
Okay, so a lot of meat, protein, and
Mm-hmm.
okay. What would people be surprised to know about you?
That my parents didn't buy the company for me and give it to me as a hobby.
Yeah, that's huge.
No. I think people would be surprised to find out that even though I can be very particular and a little bit of a hard ass at work, like I'm actually not a mean person. I think that a lot of people assume that because I'm busy a lot of the times and like they'll be like, "Hey, can you get on a call?" And I'll be like, "No." I think a lot of people assume that I'm a mean or rude person, and I don't know if that's necessarily true.
I don't get that vibe from you. Private chef or room service?
Room service.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Super early bird.
Risk or stability?
Risk.
New York or London?
London.
Luxury hotel or private villa?
Private villa.
What's your
Oh, actually,
biggest
luxury hotel. I don't like domestic work. At least at the hotel, they'll like feed me and do my like laundry and everything. Yeah,
and make
definitely
your bed and give you clean towels? Yeah, I get that.
100%.
What's
100%.
your biggest splurge? What have you bought yourself anything that you're like, okay, when this happens, I'm going to do? Have you had that happen?
I mean, I think that I live a very simple life. I think the stuff that I spend on the most is probably business. Like I'll be like, I want to buy this, or like I was saving up to invest into a company that I really wanted to invest into because a lot of them have like really high check requirements and minimums.
Right.
Like as a personal item, I spend a lot of money on jewelry. Like I
Really?
draw
That
jewelry.
surprises me.
Oh my God. That's why I was like, I just took off. I mean, I will draw my jewelry, and then I will get it made handmade in India and sent over. And like, I don't do very well with like fake metals. So and I'm a gold color girl. So everything is gold and diamonds. So it ends up being very pricey.
One thing you never travel without.
My laptop.
What's the best business book?
Um, hmm. I best business book. Right now, the book that I'm enjoying the most might be easier because like I've just read so I'm a big believer in like reading books from people that you want to be like, right? And so
Yeah, I agree.
like my dad always said like don't have someone mentor you that isn't where you want to be because what are you being mentored to be then?
Right, exactly.
So, like, I really like the book by Price about Costco. I really like a lot of autobiographies, like Sandy Kritzig. It's funny because I know her now, and it's always awkward because every time I look at her, I'm fangirling in my brain. But like, her book is insane. Like, she's a brilliant. Joan Barnes, she's another really good friend of mine. Oh, I can't believe I get to say that, but her book is insane too. So definitely a lot of um, aspiration books. It's like my self-help.
What's one word that describes you?
Hardworking.
Most underrated city.
Sausalito.
Agreed. It's so beautiful. Do you have a dream dinner guest or guests?
Can they? So Samuel
They
Price.
can be alive or dead.
Oh, or Arnold. Oh my God. I would love to sit down with the CEO of LVMH. Oh my God. I I'm obsessed with him. I would say like ever since I was a kid, when my password had to be set, I was like, I want to be Arnold. That's like it that sounds so sad again, but
So cute. I
um
love that.
yeah. I think
Heels or sneak. Tell
oh,
me what were you. No, no,
I was
go.
gonna say, like more of a traditional person. I have recently been so impressed with, I don't know if have you heard of Alex Earl?
Uh, I no. I mean, I've
Okay,
heard the name, but I don't recall who it is.
her dad's really big in like construction, and
Mhm.
she ended up like making Instagram videos and stuff like that, and kind of got big from there. But like her rate of like unicorn generation, like she got involved in Poppy, like she is one of the most brilliant marketing minds in my opinion of our like generation.
Wow.
Or she's just really good at hiring and she has the best team. I don't know. Whichever it is, I'm very impressed by her. So I like her a lot.
Hmm. Heels or sneakers?
Heels.
Last thing you Googled.
Oh, it's gonna be something silly. We were doing construction. Oh, the last thing I Googled was in San Francisco, is the clearance for gypsum the same in Sausalito?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. What scares you the most?
Not living up to my potential.
What motivates you the most? Not
The
living up to your
ability.
potential?
The ability to be able to say something like, I want to live up to my potential, to be what motivates me the most is that I can, right? Like the world is literally my oyster, and anything that I am willing to put my mind to, I can get. And that's the biggest motivator, right? Like if you work for it, you can have it. What more motivation do you need to work?
That's true. What's your favorite way to decompress?
I really like lifting a lot. Um, I like pickleball. It's nice because they force you to put your phone away. Can't be hitting with a paddle while you have your phone. So that's usually like a really good way to get me away. And that's probably the only way you'll get me away from my phone for a long time.
Yeah. I always say life gets busy for all of us, but what is one thing you never want to become too busy for?
To call my mommy.
Aw.
Like
Where is your mom?
she's in Texas and then Bakersfield. She's
Oh, really? Where?
she splits her time between Dallas and Bakersfield.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What have I not asked you that you would like to share?
No, I think that you did a very good job considering you and I talked about this like yesterday for the first time
Yes.
ever. Like you really showed up. Like that was one of the best interviews I've ever had.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. So you
Thank
have nothing else you want to share?
No, I'm super excited about the Marina location that we're opening. I'm super stoked that, everyone's received Sausalito well, and I'm excited to keep growing in the community. I don't know. I don't have anything else.
Well, Gary Rulli, who is one of my dear friends, is your biggest fan. And he called me to tell me about you. And he's like, you have to interview this woman. She is so amazing. And so I want to thank you, Gary Rulli, for introducing me to this amazing person who I just can't wait. I'm going to sit here with a Diet Coke and popcorn and just like watch and see. I'm going to be like, look at this one. She is amazing. It has been such a pleasure speaking with you today. I wish you nothing but the best. I am now the vice president because I don't think Gary really is going to let me be president of your fan club. And just thank you so much for being on I'm Too Busy. I'm Christina Flach, and I will see you next week. Thank you.
I'm Christina Flach, and I'm too busy. Please like, subscribe, and comment and share these interviews. I would love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions of people you'd like for me to interview, put it in the comments. Thanks so much.